A beautiful sight, oh, we're happy tonight, walking in
So a Christmas tradition for me, I mean, everyone has their favorite Christmas movies. I always love to watch Christmas Vacation. It's just kind of a silly, funny, when you watch
the National
Chevy
Lampoon,
Chase. Yeah. And then, of course, when he puts up the Christmas lights and he ends up going on the, from the roof, when he's falling off.
Yeah.
So we have to talk about how do we properly put up Christmas lights, because we don't want to have the Griswold effect take over.
The Griswold effect happens when you're living in a cul-de-sac and there's too much competition.
Yeah.
You see everybody else doing what they're doing, and then you got to figure out, okay, we got to beat them. We got to get
More
going.
lights.
But the problem is that if you don't have a thought-out plan, you can do Griswold, and it's great. You can have themes. You can have really kind of astounding shows of light display, but you have to kind of do a little pre-preparation. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So number one, design style. You want to kind of figure out, am I going to go over the top? Am I going to go classic? And to me, classic means I'm following the roof lines. I'm following my window frames. I'm kind of highlighting the architectural aspects to the house that I live in. That's kind of the classic way of doing the lighting. Then you can go to the next level. You can start to, involve, all sorts of different things like, big things on the roof and Santa Claus guy, a window installation, a big blow up. I mean, it depends where you're going. But for our purposes of this conversation, let's talk about just doing this traditional
outdoor lights.
Following the roof line. Okay.
So you're following the roof line, just the roof itself,
and the architectural details. So
Okay.
the window frames, the front door area.
Yeah.
If you want to get into icicle lights hanging from your overhangs, I think that's really pretty. Doing your Christmas trees out in front, or any of your landscape lighting, kind of amending it with Christmas lights as well. So basically, the first thing to do if you're looking at the front of the house, you're going to want to measure the width of your home. So if we're going to run along our roof line, you're going to have to measure how wide is my house. You're going to have to take into account any lofts or angles to the house or dormers that you might have. And you may just be able to estimate that. But let's say going from left to right, your house is, 75 feet across. So I'm going to need at least one string of 75-foot lights. Once you kind of tally up your linear footage, then you'll know what you need to go buy at the store. Now, you may have stuff already existing from previous decoration times. Hopefully, you've stored it in the appropriate way, which is
the Eric Stromer way.
The Eric Stromer way, which is to take a piece of 12 by 12 cardboard and wrap your lights around them, very, very organized in just loops, and then you can kind of pile them and stack them in one box, basically like you're stacking, T-shirts. It's the same kind of a thing. So you've unwound your lights, you're pulling them out, you're plugging them in, you're making sure that they all work, and if they don't, then you can replace them. But if you do need new lights, go ahead and measure your linear footage, and then you go from there. Secondly, do you want tradition with small white lights? Do you want to go with something like the old C7 lights or the C9 lights? Those are the bigger bulbs, the colorful bulbs that are teardrop shaped. If you go the high efficiency LED, chances are you're going to have to buy them once every 15 years. They're going to last forever. The light, the way it looks, is a little more blue. It's not quite as stark white. But outside
like
at
snow.
night, it's actually really pretty. Also, icicle lights, those are really great too.
Yeah.
Those are things that you can just hang right off of your gutter or your overhang and give you that sort of, icicle feeling around the perimeter of your house. So we've done that. We've found our lengths. We've tested our lights to make sure that they're okay. Now, a ladder. What am I going to do? How am I going to get up to that roof line? I'm going to obviously have a ladder, and it's going to be able to go all the way up to the roof so I can climb up and safely be 3 rungs below the top rung of that ladder, so I have a place to hold on to. And I'm also going to have a buddy with me. I'm going to have my wife, my husband, my kid holding the ladder, being able to pass stuff up to me so that I can keep my hands occupied by holding the ladder with one, hooking an elbow through, and then using the free hand to not extend too far. You don't want to go further than your arms reach. You don't want to hang out over the ladder an additional 2 feet by leaning, away from it, because that's when you have falls and the ladder can slip and so on and so forth. So please be careful with that.
And what sections, now that we're having this buddy system with the ladder, where do we start? Because we want the cord to go into an outlet.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So what is my power source? Do I have an outdoor power source that has a GFI on it? So if, for example, it snows and then it melts and then these lights get wet or the extension cord is in water, will it short the lights out? Will it be an electrical nightmare if somebody steps in it? So obviously, you've got, let's say that you have the right thing, you've got the right kind of an outdoor plug, you want to probably have a green extension cord. I see a lot of times people with orange construction cords. It's like, Merry Christmas, sort of. I've got this construction cord I'm going to make do, or I'm going to just use this lamp cord that is going to have 50 lights on it. And then you do get the Griswold effect, and the thing bursts into flames.
Even beige.
Or melts.
They have the outdoor beige, but I want green. I want it to blend in.
You want green, and you want enough extension cord, and it has to be rated for outdoor. So. And I don't want to see you have a bunch of power strips sitting outside either. That's not a safe way to do it. So it would be, and if you do have a power strip, make sure it's up off the ground, but please, I would rather that you don't.
So wait, so if our main area that we're going to plug it in, I mean, we're going to have extension cords, but let's say our main area is by the garage.
Sure.
Is that where we will start and we plug a strip in and we start from that and go over?
Well, ideally you want to get your cord from your power source all the way to the start of the lighting. So that may mean that if you're going to run your light down to the ground, then you can meet it at the ground with the extension cord. If you're going to run your light starting up at the gutter on top, you got to run that cord up and start at the gutter and be anchored there somehow.
Because we don't want it to be messy. We want it to be seamless.
And if you have the thing and it's green and it's kind of going up the side of the house, it works great. But the other thing is, where am I going to attach these things? Am I going to let them just hang freeform, or am I going to buy specific clips to hold the lights? There's a couple of ways to do that. With the Christmas lights, they sell these different systems where you can either nail into the fascia, which is the board that is right below your gutter, and generally it's a piece of trim that looks like it's about 4 inches wide from bottom to top. Are you going to nail into the face of that? Are you going to nail underneath? Are you going to go behind? Do you want to see the lights, or do you just want to see sort of a cascading light from behind the fascia board? So you got to consider all these things. And am I going to nail into the wood? So if I nail into the wood, that means that at some point moisture will get into those nail holes and start to rot the fascia board. So there are other systems that actually hang onto the gutters themselves. They're plastic clips. They either hang on the gutter and they clip on, and then you clip the lights into there every 12 to 14 inches. Or there are ones that shim up under your roofing tiles, and then the light strands sit on those, and they're anchored by the weight of the roofing tile pressing down onto the shim. So these are all considerations. So if you're going to go ahead and and do the kind that nail into the fascia, you're going to want to take some clear silicone on your finger in a caulk tube and rub around the light just to protect it so you keep moisture out. And you're going to do that every, like I said, 12 to 14 inches. So, you have to do some forethought.
Sounds like a lot of pre-planning.
I mean, a lot of times it works because you just kind of go up there and throw them up and that's that. But if you're going to repeat the same thing every year, you might as well do it right once.
Right. And create your plan.
Create your plan. Take a little bit extra time. Drive around your neighborhood and look at people's lights who have done a great job. Go online on Houzz or Pinterest and see all these examples and kind of plan it from there, and then buy the appropriate amount of stuff. And if you're starting over right now, I really do recommend these LED lights because you buy them once and they're there for years and years and years, and they're pretty durable.
And how old do you think, or how long should we keep our previous lights that we've been using for years?
Sure. I mean, if you've got the old C7s and C9s, those are those
big bulbs.
They're really they're vulnerable because once one light goes out, then maybe the strand goes. So. To me, that's a real hassle. You may want to just kind of upgrade and start over. But, if you've got old traditional things, you may want to just repair them as you go. But, first and foremost, you want to make sure they all work, they're all operable. And then I like to hang them, when you can see them as you're hanging them. So you don't want it to be totally dark, but it can't be the middle of the day. So like right from 4 to 7. Is a good time to kind of get them up, because you can, as you're doing it, you can stand back and see the effect of them. I think that works a lot better. And again, just make sure you're safe with your ladder safety, and you've got a partner out there with you to help hand you all sorts of stuff, right? The other thing to consider too is, do you want to get into decorating trees on the outside of your house? And if you do that, again, you're going to have to run your cord preferably in an area that's not right sitting in water when snow melts ultimately. but is sort of up on the ground, but hidden enough so that you really don't notice it. And again, they do make green cores. They make brown exterior cores, but stay away from the bright orange.
They make white ones too. Don't like that.
Don't do the white either.
And what about timers and controllers? This might be a good time to make sure we have a really good, timer.
No question,
Yeah.
because that gives you the ability to have those lights on until midnight and then shut them off, and they come back on the next day around 5, saving energy and electricity, and then not having to unplug and plug every time you want to see the light show.
So kind of like getting ready to paint a house. It's all
Kinda.
about the preparation.
A little bit of preparation. And
Jeez.
it's fun and beautiful when it's done right.
And then you get your plan every year.
And if you go too hard, it's Griswold, and the whole neighborhood goes
Not
down.
good. Eric Stormer, Cindy Dole, thanks for that. Some great advice. We have more to come. You're listening to Home Wizards.